So we're irradiating something.
Hopefully not.
Irradiating. God, horrible pronunciation. Irradiating. All right, so we were just talking about the exact model name of your vehicle. Which, can you say it for me again?
It's a 2017 Infiniti Q60 Red Sport 400. It's quite a mouthful.
One of the longest car names. At least it's nothing Italian to pronounce. It's just a lot of words. All right, now it's all-wheel drive, right?
It is the all-wheel drive model.
Okay. And you have chipped the car, and it's now producing approximately what kind of horsepower?
Well, in case Infiniti Financial Services watching, I decided not to chip the car. But if I had, I would have gone with the Berger Motorsports tune, which brings it to about 400 wheel horsepower. The name Red Sport 400 comes because it's 400 horsepower at the crank, stock. The chip brings it up, hypothetically, to 400 at the wheels.
Hypothetically. All right. So all-wheel drive, what is the distribution of that? Can it do 100% to the rear or the front, or does it have kind of a distribution, 40-60? How does that work?
To be honest, I did some research on this and kind of found conflicting answers. Some people said it was pure symmetrical, but I think the more realistic answer is it's a more 60-40 front to rear bias.
All right, so you can kind of feel it when you're driving it that it's definitely got more in the rear, so you could break loose the rear a little bit if you really went through a corner.
You definitely can.
Okay, great. And once again, the color was obsidian blue?
Iridium.
Iridium, okay. So I was wondering where the button was, and they've hit it next to the light in the light housing. And it doesn't really pop up, it just kind of has a little bit of a lip there. There's 1.5 Texan body space in here. Even got some Harbor Freight tools. Huge cover to let you know that there's brake fluid in there. It's got power adjustable steering. Is that front and rear too? So the whole steering column's powered up and down.
Telescopic.
That's nice. Pedals being, having the nice aluminum.
Oh, you should the Infiniti sign on the door sill.
It's lit. So you were showing me that this mode here flips through the options here. So you've got Stranger Things soundtrack is what I guess you were listening to on your air pressure on your tires.
A little warm.
Not too bad. What is your standard setting supposed to be?
35.
35. Okay. Oh, that's why it says 35 in the center. I'm an idiot.
Clever, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's nice. That's a good reference.
It is nice.
Chassis control. I guess you're playing Tron. It's got a little grid system.
It's real time, so it shows you when you're taking a turn, kind of where the force is and what this is, because it does have an active suspension.
So does it actually show G-force?
It doesn't show G-force, although we do have a G meter.
Oh, so it lets you know when you've gotten to the G spot?
Exactly.
So you've got the target 0 sign. Your miles to the gallon, because who cares about that on performance?
Fuel flow.
Fuel consumption. Again, more of the performance stuff is eco, not actual sport. Interesting. See, what do we got down here? Bottle caps.
Yeah, dude.
And other miscellaneous crap. An old school. Nope, it's not actually a lighter. It's just a piece of plastic. So it's a power port, but not a lighter. And let's see here. I want to turn this. I have to click onto it. This is just your infotainment turner, and that's touchscreen up there, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, that's touchscreen up there. Very standard.
Nice thing, LEDs all on the inside.
Enough room in the rear for a baby, and that's about it. It does have some nice little side bolstering on the pad there, though. I thought the rear view, like, blind spots were actually pretty decent.
Yeah, they're pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Bose Performance Audio.
Yeah, so Bose has apparently multi-levels now. And the nicer levels of Bose is the Bose Performance.
So I'm surprised that they don't have a double pull. Like, you unlocked it, but a double pull safety. Why does it not have a double pull safety?
I have no idea. You want to ask Infiniti?
Yeah, I do, because you've had the car for a while now, so this is a little bit of a multi-year review. It's not like you just got it. It's not like you don't know anything about it. You've driven it quite a bit. What are the things that you've really enjoyed about it, and what are the things that you just would totally get rid of if they did an upgrade of this? What would your suggestions be to Infiniti to say, hey, on the next model or rendition, what would you tell them to add to the car?
Absolutely. So anytime I watch a car review and hear somebody telling us about how this car is absolutely perfect for everyone, it always kind of makes me a little hesitant to believe that, just because everybody wants something different out of a car, right? For you do the autocross stuff, right? So for you, handling is incredibly important, probably one of the most important parts of the vehicle at all, right? Versus me, the only kind of racing I do is a stoplight Grand Prix, right? So I care about straight line acceleration, don't care too much about handling. So what the Infiniti does really well is exactly what I wanted. So for me, it was pretty much the perfect car. It was at an extremely accessible price point. Honestly, unbelievable how cheap it's been for me to drive that car for this long.
Right, you've had almost zero maintenance costs.
I mean, yeah, you do an oil change every 10,000 miles, and I'll have done one set of tires on it and the whole time, right? So for a $60,000 performance car, 400 wheel horsepower, all-wheel drive, right? For that to be your ownership cost, that's pretty reasonable, right? Especially to have a brand new car too, not deal with any headaches. The warranty, it's been on warranty the whole time. So for what I like, it does very well. It's an extremely sharp looking car. It's a nice car, and then you just get absolutely slammed back into that seat when you really push the go button, if you will. So for what I wanted, it's a great car. The things it doesn't do super well is definitely going to be the handling. The weight, it's a little too heavy for what it is.
You get a lot of body roll?
Yeah, the suspension is pretty firm, but it's not confidence inspiring, right?
So you're saying that you blew out a tire? I
did destroy a tire, and unfortunately on all-wheel drive cars, I don't know if y'all all know this, but you can't have one tire out of tread depth spec. They all have to be within about 2/32 of an inch of each other, or you can get into some trouble with a differential. The taller, wider, whatever you want to call it, a tire, the more it's actually rotating. To do one revolution. So you have, call it a meter over here and 1.01 meters over here, and that's enough to over time really wear on it and break the differentials. Again, for me, how I drive, what I want out of a car, the Infiniti's everything I've ever wanted, but it's by no means really the perfect car. I'll say my three favorite things about the car is just the straight line acceleration. It's absolutely amazing with that. The looks, it's a fantastic looking car, and then the interior is very pretty. I don't need all the bells and whistles. I was coming from a car where a sunroof was an incredible luxury, so to have the things that's in the Infiniti, it was a nice step up for me.
Double stitch leather, I don't know if it's hand stitched, but it's got that hand stitched look on the steering wheel wrap. Color match carbon fiber. There's other leather accents and a lot of heavily touched areas. There's a lot of soft touch materials instead of being hard plastics like you would get in Nissan.
It also has the Bose Performance audio. I like music. So we've talked about the good, now to get into the bad. But the most glaring thing with the car is the 7-speed automatic transmission. So for the Red Sport 400s, and I believe actually all the Q60s, that's the only transmission option available. There is no manual option. There is no dual clutch option. It's just.
But does it have paddles?
It does have paddles, yeah, but it's.
But it's clunky when you click it. You got a delay there between the shifting.
It's slow. So Infiniti, I think, says the 0 to 60 time on this car, at least when I bought it, was about 4.6 seconds. The tune I might hypothetically have might increase that a little bit, but the limiting factor there is most definitely the transmission. You get not even turbo lag, you just get it being slow to change gears. The sport modes and sport plus modes definitely help out with that, but the thing that was holding up the 0 to 60 time is absolutely that transmission. I think Infiniti's been using that 7-speed automatic transmission for, I don't want to say, but it's a long time.
Many years.
Many years.
It's due for an upgrade.
Yeah.
They need to make the shift to dual clutch like everybody else is making the shift to.
Or the ZF 10-speed on that. But yeah, so the transmission is probably one of the worst parts about the car. The other big negative on that car, and this is an easy fix, but on a car at this price point, it's really not something you should have to do. The OEM tires are over $400 a tire, not including installation.
Right, we talked about them being run flats.
Yes.
And that's part of why.
That's part of why, but they're absolutely horrible. Even in the world of run flats, they are terrible cars. You can pull them up on TireRack.com and they have like a 2-point-something rating. They're just terrible.
So they're a harder compound.
They're loud. They don't perform well. They leave a lot to be desired. Again, $1,000, you can put some Michelin Pilot Super Sports on there, and the car will be like a whole new car. But the OEM tires on that level of car, they're pretty inexcusable with just the poor quality of them and the price. You think one quote I got to put 4 new tires on, it was $1,800 for OEM tires, right? That's a little much.
So there is no spare tire. So much like BMW, they included run flats, which anybody who likes performance knows is little calipers.
The other thing you're going to notice, like you said, there's a lot of really nice materials. So the actual materials are awesome, but the build quality leaves a lot to be desired.
So this carbon fiber came in the car.
Yeah, it's
on
there, on the sides there, and then matte mirrored on that side.
Up here.
So one of the coolest things about it is it comes color matched to your exterior color too.
Oh, so it's got that kind of blue tint to
you see
it.
the blue in it? Yeah, so the red cars have red in it, the blues have blue.
If you could, fill me in a little bit on how you decided to pick this car over many others that were in similar price range, similar horsepower range, similar interior options. What set this one over the bar? Because there are a lot of options in this segment that would be more iconic, that are more commonly selected. This was a little bit of an oddball for me. I hadn't really heard much about it until you got it, and I still don't see a lot of them on the road. It's always when you see someone that got a new car, you see about 1 million of them after that. I don't see this car on the road very often because it's not saying it blends in, because it is a very good looking car, but it's a little bit more low key. It's stylish and flashy without being in your face.
The MSRP on my car specifically was about 56, 57, I think, but it was a pretty low spec car for what it was. At the Red Sport 400, I think they are usually in the 60,000 range, and like you said, there's a lot of amazing cars out there you can buy for around the $60,000 range. But one of the reasons I chose this car is I'm actually one of the world's most boring car guys. I like Toyotas, I like reliability, I like
Toyota Matrix.
Being cheap, right? Exactly. My other car, as Baker loves to point out, is a very clapped out Toyota Matrix that I bought for extremely cheaply. So originally I was actually only looking at one car, and that's a Lexus ISF, just because, like I said, I like Toyota, I like reliability. So Lexus ISF 5.0 liter V8, 400 something horsepower, awesome car. Problem was they just didn't make very many of them. So at the time I was working as a used car manager for one of the largest dealership group chains in America, and I was looking for probably 3 or 4 months for a Lexus ISF that was going to work for me. I could get them all from our dealership group at a pretty good price point, and I just never came along with one. And I had the itch to buy something. I really wanted to kind of step into something really fun to drive. So I started looking at other alternatives, something that I might be okay with buying. So I kicked around the idea for a little bit of buying a C7 Corvette. At that time, I think this was in March of 2017, so you could start finding the 2014, 2015 Corvettes for, I think, even in the low 40s for like a 2LT, something a little bit cheaper.
But you're still more used.
But again, yeah, you're buying it. It's a Corvette, electrical problems. I wasn't really sold on the idea. So then I started thinking about maybe leasing. So I actually visited the Lease Hacker forums. Lease Hacker is an awesome resource. The forums are awesome. People post actual verified deals that they've had before. And one of the cars that kind of popped up was this Q60 Red Sport. So a lot of times you see Audi, BMW have great lease deals, but not so much on their M series cars, right? Their RS series cars. They're not going to do those kind of crazy lease deals. But Infiniti has always kind of been trying to play in that same game, but always a little bit of a step down. So they typically, for lack of a better word, I don't know if you can say this on YouTube, but whore their cars out, especially on the leases. So Infiniti has, by manufacturer, as far as like your normal everyday names, the highest percentage lease of any manufacturer. So they are all about throwing out extremely aggressive lease deals. So for instance, again, my car, $56,000 MSRP. In Texas, we don't have very favorable leasing taxes. So somebody in a different state can get a better deal than the deal I got. But I'm paying $560 a month for 12,000 miles a year, and I paid absolutely nothing out of pocket. No money down, no first payment due at signing, nothing like that.
That's direct through Infiniti leasing.
That was direct. Yeah, I went to 2 Infiniti dealerships near us and worked out that deal.
Do you feel like you could have gotten a better deal at Fair Lease or at any of the
no.
other leasing groups in our Metroplex?
No, definitely not. And the reason you see that is because the residual and money factor I got were not fair numbers. They were pumped up by the manufacturer in an effort to sell those cars.
Adjust mirrors here. Obviously the rear is standard. It's just got some buttons here. Looks like it's garage openers.
Auto dimming, yeah, garage door openers.
It's got
a home link.
Direction facing. Side mirror adjustments is exactly where you'd expect it to be. The center section, so you're not. See what you're talking about the stupid clock in this drive mode clicker right here.
Yep.
And that shows in the bottom left center personal. What's personal?
You can just customize it. So if you want soft suspension but good acceleration.
Oh, you even have an eco and snow. Don't get that in Texas.
So yeah, since we've had this car, we've not had a snow day, so I've never got to test it.
So it is still smooth, but it does have, a pretty sharp drop when it goes into gear. You can feel it jerk a little bit.
That's the super old transmission I was telling you about. Because to be honest, it's not even so much turbo lag. It really is mostly the transmission just failing you.
So do you think when you turn it into one of these sport modes that it changes the amount of power?
I don't think it actually does. I think it lets you rev up much quicker.
Oh, come on, runners. You ruined my fun.
I think it revs up much quicker. And it does shift faster. So it does make a difference, it does help, but it still leaves a lot to be desired.
So we're gonna go through this roundabout to feel. Wow, that is really bad traction.
That's mostly to blame with the tires too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're not warm, but it's not a cold day either. And we just got a little sideways, and I wasn't even going what I would consider that fast through that turn. I like the soft click on the turn signal indicator. I would say the steering it's not bad. It doesn't feel like it's overly electronically assisted, which is good, but it's not as direct as, it's not heavy. It still feels very like standard car, modern car electronically assisted, but not too much so that you can just spin it.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I will say these have an optional fly-by-wire system for their steering that I've heard is really unfortunate. It's not good at all, but it was a pretty uncommon option. I think something like only 5% of them made actually had it as an option.
Brakes shocks aren't bad for being the small size that they are, but you do have fairly large rotors.
Yep.
I would like more turbo noise. For having twin turbos,
they did keep it pretty quiet. Now again, this car does have the artificial interior noise to help out with that, but I did turn that off.
So when it was on, I'm not asking you to turn it on, I'm sure it's a pain in the butt.
It is a major pain.
But what does it sound like? Is it?
To be honest, I turned it off the second I bought it, so I never really experienced it. The reviews I had kind of read before buying the car made it sound like it was pretty obviously fake, right?
Right.
Wasn't.
Ford in general has done a pretty decent job with theirs. It's pretty common in the EcoBoost Mustangs now. So this is a section of highway with a lot of state troopers on it. So I'm only going to do this once. We're up to 100 and some, and that was very, very quick, very subtle. I didn't even have to get all the way to the floor. It's got good pickup. It's got really good pickup.
It's an easy car to go way too fast.
Yeah, I'm sure if you're doing a road trip and you're just going mile after mile, you look down and go, oh shit, I'm 100, but it feels like I'm going 60.
My girlfriend and I drove this out to Florida when we stayed the week out on St. George Island, and we took this car, and I absolutely looked down a couple times and realized I was doing 100 with no intention of doing that.
Pretty standard sunroof, moonroof attire. Got a little clip here for, what is that for?
Card holder, I assume?
Why would you need cards? Oh,
Insurance?
tacky. But yeah, I mean, you start coming up on some cars real quick, and it doesn't feel like you're going fast. It's very quiet interior. I did think that, I mean, that was a fairly bumpy section of the highway there, but I did feel like I got a lot of bump.
Yep, firm suspension. Honestly, though, mostly crappy tires.
After that little bit of sideways section, I'm not wanting to give it too much because I don't want to go into the curve. A little bit of tire squeal on the line. Coming onto the on-ramp. And that's 100.
We were talking earlier about the bias, and you thought it was 50-50. What do you think after driving? You think it's pretty close to the 50-50?
It might be a little bit more 60-40, just from my feel, my butt dyno, if you will. That's one of the things I like about a rear-wheel drive car. Oh, I didn't test the paddles. How do I get it? Is it already in paddle mode?
Ready?
Yeah. Okay, so I can downshift. It's almost too quiet. You can't hear that it revved up. Yeah, there's a little bit of the delay in the upshift. Once I get back down to a decently low rev here, I'll downshift.
So I seriously consider the aftermarket exhaust for that exact reason.
It will not downshift until you get below 3,000.
Yeah, the computer babies you a little bit.
That sucks in sport mode. I wonder if Sport Plus would do that. Yeah, it was a little bit better, but it still didn't like it. So it babies you on the downshift. I mean, I'd rather protect the
Yeah, like I said, it's not a true dual clutch, so to be honest, I can't blame it too much for that.
Right. Well, we're behind a Audi. I don't have my
It's an S5.
S5, and then a Tesla Model S. I do like that the turbos spool up pretty quick. I mean, they do kick in at a low RPM.
Yes, they do. And I'll be keeping my eye on the used Audi R8 V10 prices.
Yeah, I keep sending you V8 because that's what I keep seeing on Facebook Marketplace. But the V10, we both love that car. You know, obviously we were much younger when Iron Man first came out, and that was kind of the big drop for it. You know, I don't think I would personally own one, so I'm going to let you buy it, and I'll just enjoy it through you vicariously.
If you get really into this, then you should make it a goal, and I can help with this, that in a year you do a cheap car challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Meet you, and because I was gonna say I know enough people working at dealerships that like 2 months heads up, I can source us some interesting cheap as fuck.
So if you want to see a cheap car, used car challenge with me, Reid, and someone else that'll introduce a third to be decided. So put in your bids now. Any kind of money, donations, food, something to sway my opinion in your direction. Let's do something. I would enjoy doing that.
I would enjoy it too.
Anyway, so we just tore down the toll road for a little. Hey, look, a Cayman. What do you know? A white Cayman. I like those.
Good car spot in territory.
Absolutely. Probably live in those apartments over there. I may have to go chase them down.
Thank you for watching this episode of Baker's Garage. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell.